Welcome back. Nuclear nonproliferation. Hard to say and increasingly hard to achieve. Here's why. A bipartisan group of former senior government officials and national security experts is pushing the United States to revitalize its strategy for preventing more countries from acquiring nuclear weapons. In its new report, the Task Force on Nuclear Proliferation argues there's an increased likelihood that a larger number than currently exists of countries will seek out nuclear arms, and it offers solutions for countering this, what it conceives to be a dangerous trend. I spoke to one of the authors of the report, former Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz. Mr. Secretary, good to see you. The report is entitled Preventing an Era of Nuclear Anarchy. That sounds pretty damn scary.
Well, Major, we've been going through a period where it has gotten a bit scary. We've heard Russia, the Russian leader, issuing nuclear threats in Ukraine. Of course, we've seen the actions and reactions in Iran. We've seen technologies emerging at breakneck speed that have untold consequences. And frankly, we have, worse than historically, I would say. We have our allies uncertain about various security relationships that have led to a lot of discussions about potentially moving towards nuclear weapons. So we are concerned, and that's why in this report we pulled together an expert task force, bipartisan, very different security perspectives, but just to go to the top line immediately, reaching the unanimous conclusion that, in fact, nuclear proliferation remains a very bad thing for the United States, and is something that is non-proliferation we should keep as a very high priority in our security posture.
Mr. Secretary, let's name check some of our allies moving in this direction. Saudi Arabia, Germany, Poland, South Korea, all recalibrating decades-long calculus that led them away from proliferation, now rethinking all that.
Yeah, and I would add to your list, Major, I would add Japan to that list. Again, another technically very savvy country that could certainly move there if they chose, and within Japan, one has certainly heard voices calling for that. But you're right, South Korea with the North Korean threat, Germany and Poland, especially stimulated by the situation in Ukraine. And of course, in this century, one country has gone nuclear, namely North Korea, and one country, Iran, has been viewed as on the threshold. So it's a dangerous situation. And ironically, perhaps, other than Iran, the countries that are of most concern for crossing the nuclear threshold are, in fact, our allies.
So, Mr. Secretary, one thing I learned when I was in college in 1983, trying to get a political science bachelor's, was to run counter to the students' papers that I was competing against to get my professor's attention. So again, this is 1983. In a poli-sci class, I wrote a paper that said more nations with nuclear weapons would be safer than fewer because they would all understand the risks better. They would all feel safer because they knew they had some and could compete against other peer rivals in the nuclear space. I got an A on the paper. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, we think, in fact, it is incorrect. It may have been beautifully written and deserved an A, but I think it would be bad policy. Our concern is that, especially if you look at the possibility of allied proliferation, that the risks, and I'll speak now, for the United States, the risk for the United States of getting pulled into a situation that could become nuclear goes up. So I think it's in our interest, and one of our in some sense, lead recommendation is that while nuclear nonproliferation should remain a very high priority for our security posture, the way we implement it has to evolve, and that particularly involves the relationship with our allies. We support, frankly, the move in the current American administration to strengthen or to have our allies strengthen their own conventional capabilities, and that should be integrated with the United States nuclear umbrella into an overall deterrence posture. We think that's the most stable thing. The way to avoid blunders and miscalculations that again could spiral out of control, and we believe that risk would be much greater with more countries, including our allies, in the nuclear camp.
All right, thanks to former Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz for joining us.